We're all caught up in this race, right? The race to build the next incredible AI. And the mantra is always the same. Make it smarter, faster, more powerful. That's always better. Or is it? It turns out there's a huge fundamental tension right at the heart of how we're building AI today. And that's what we're going to unpack.
So here's the question. Is a more powerful AI always a better AI? You know, it seems like a straightforward question, but the answer is, well, it's anything but. This gets right to the core conflict. It's this massive challenge that pits pure technological performance, I'm talking raw speed, processing power, smack dab against our most basic human values, things like fairness, privacy, and ethics.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around this whole dilemma, we first need to look at what's been driving the world of AI for decades. And that goal, overwhelmingly, has been about one thing: this relentless push for perfection, for total optimization. I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single time you hear about a big AI breakthrough, whether it's a new chatbot or some mind-blowing image generator, how is it framed? It's always about being better than the last one, right? A model that's more accurate, an algorithm that can crunch a zillion calculations in the blink of an eye. This is basically the default setting for the entire industry. It's just a flat-out race to the top of the performance charts.
So when we throw around a term like high-performance AI, what are we actually talking about? Well, it pretty much boils down to these four things. You've got higher accuracy, which just means the AI makes fewer mistakes. Then there's maximum efficiency, getting the job done using less energy. Faster speeds, that one's pretty obvious. And greater scale, which is all about being able to handle just massive, massive amounts of data. For the longest time, these were the only stats that mattered. This was how you measured success.
Okay, but here's the twist. What if chasing those numbers, those perfect scores, comes with a hidden price tag? This is where the whole story starts to get really complicated, because that constant relentless push for performance can force a really, really tough choice. And this introduces a concept that's absolutely central to our discussion: the efficiency ethics trade-off.
Now, this is super important. This trade-off isn't some kind of bug or an unfortunate accident. No, it's a fundamental built-in tension in AI development. The very act of making an AI better in a technical sense can, at the exact same time, make it worse in a human ethical sense. The key thing to get here is that these two goals, peak efficiency and strong ethics, they don't always line up. In fact, sometimes they pull in opposite directions.
So let's make this real. What does this conflict actually look like out in the wild? Well, imagine you want to build an AI with maximum accuracy. To do that, the system might need to hoover up just insane amounts of personal data, right? And boom, there goes our privacy. Or let's say you're gunning for raw speed and power. To get there, developers often use what are called black box models. These things are so incredibly complex that even the people who built them can't fully explain how they reached a specific conclusion. And that lack of transparency, that's a massive ethical problem, especially when that AI is making a decision about, say, your loan application or even a medical diagnosis.
Okay, so what do we do about this? We've got this big trade-off. We obviously can't just stop innovating, but we can't just ignore these huge ethical costs either. And this has led to a much more mature way of thinking, a new framework for building AI, what we call responsible AI.
And this quote, it just nails it. The key word, the absolute most important word here is balancing. This isn't about choosing performance or ethics as if they're mutually exclusive. It's about building a system, a process that intentionally weighs both. It's about recognizing that a truly great AI has to be excellent on the technical side and on the human side.
So, responsible AI isn't just some fuzzy feel-good concept. It's a real, concrete framework for governance. And the most critical piece of it is this: you have to treat ethical risks as a top priority, not some little thing you check at the end. It's about baking ethics right into the DNA of the project, right from day one, instead of trying to slap a bandage on it after the damage is already done.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? What does it look like in practice? Well, the framework gives us a pretty clear path. Step 1 is simple but crucial. Just acknowledge that the trade-off is real. You can't solve a problem if you pretend it doesn't exist. Step 2, you have to proactively look for the risks. Before you even think about shipping that code, you have to ask the hard questions. Who could this hurt? In what ways could this be abused? And then finally, step 3, you balance and you decide. And this right here is the human part. It's about making a conscious, deliberate choice about where you're going to set the dial between pure performance and ethical responsibility. And that brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from all of this. Figuring out this trade-off, it's not a technical problem. You can't just code your way out of it with a smarter algorithm. It is, and it always, always will be, a human decision. Look, there's just no magic formula here. No one-size-fits-all answer. If you're building an AI to recommend songs, yeah, you can probably crank the accuracy dial all the way up and not worry too much. But what if that AI is diagnosing cancer? Suddenly, things like explainability and safety become way, way more important than raw speed. A self-driving car, obviously, has a much higher risk level than a simple spam filter. So it always comes down to these things: the context, the level of risk, and the broader societal impact. Those have to be your guide.
And I want to be crystal clear about this. This whole conversation we're having about responsible AI, this is not about being anti-tech. It's not about slamming the brakes on progress. Not at all. It's about demanding a smarter, more mature, more thoughtful kind of progress. It's about us, as a society, grabbing the steering wheel and making sure that these unbelievably powerful tools are actually serving our best interests. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. When an AI's efficiency crashes head-on with fundamental human values, who gets to decide which one wins? And think about it. This isn't just a hypothetical question for a bunch of engineers in a lab somewhere. As AI weaves its way deeper and deeper into our lives, into our hospitals, our courtrooms, our jobs, this becomes a question for every single one of us. When performance and principles are in conflict, who gets to make the call?